we are going to build a PC, and Lily's going to help, and I'm going to do this in such a manner that nobody that has built a PC can build it. We got power cord, a couple of antennas. That is the Wi-Fi card for it. That was another bonus of this particular bare bones kit. You just tip the box upside down. It comes out easier that way. So this particular PC, or bare bones, it has a 4 and above rating, depending on where you go. Okay, so there's going to be a couple of screws here somewhere, and then I'll lay out all the parts that we got for this. This could be just a kind of a simple PC, or you can put a nice video card and lots of memory in there. Okay, so that's the power supply. We'll have to screw that in. Okay, so that's the ASRock. It's got 4 slots for memory. Got a Ryzen 5. It's the 5000 series, and more specifically 5600G. The G represents graphics. You could play some little games like Stardew Valley or something. And that looks like a decent fan. It's a Samsung SSD 980, 1 terabyte M.2 SSD. So this is how this Wi-Fi module, if you look here, it says M.2 Wi-Fi, and then your Ultra M.2. So it just, you push it in and then make sure it's pushed in all the way, and then there's a screw hole right there. So you know it's pushed in all the way because that screw hole will line up. Okay, when you put it in this Wi-Fi module, you have to look at your little wires, and if you look really close, it's got a tiny little socket on the end of it. So it's best to do this before you put the stupid Wi-Fi card in, so you can see it and hold it. And I don't know if this can focus or not, but this shows white. You can feel it snap into place when you got it. So there those are. I'm going to let them hang out the back. Okay, so we got the Wi-Fi card in, and I would suggest ordering a couple of M.2 screws, because both the Wi-Fi card and the memory card did not come with an attaching screw. So you can probably Google that, but it's tiny little screws that have to fit in there. Now we'll put in the memory. It's holding steady. Let's go ahead and put in this stick of memory. And you can get away with one stick. All you got to do is move this little thing here like this, and make sure that we're plugging this in the right direction. There's a slot. It only goes in one way. You can see that the slot is off-centered. The slot here. Make sure you have that in facing the right way, and you'll hear a little click. Now we're going to put in the processor. Okay, so this is what you got to do, is you got to identify right here. This little dot represents pin 1. See all these little miniature pins on here? This Ryzen chip's got pins instead of little daubs of solder like some of the Intels have. So you got to be very careful. Don't ever set it down on the pins, and don't fumble this around, because these pins are very delicate, and as much as you pay for that CPU, you won't be happy if you bend a pin. So now when you look at this, you can look over here. There's always a mark on the motherboard as to what's pin 1. It's that little distinguishing angle thing. There's always some thing that denotes that that's pin 1. So you want to make sure that this is turned so that pin 1 goes to pin 1 right here. See that? Pin 1, pin 1. And it should just kind of drop in really nice and easy, and put a little bit of pressure on it when you close this little handle. There you go. Processor's in. Now you got to kind of analyze how this works, because if you wanted to put this on, I think this needs to be gone. These need to be gone. And there's a little plate underneath that's going to drop down. Fortunately, you have access to it after that. Okay, this doesn't matter too much how it's going to go on, other than you want to make sure you can plug this into the chassis fan. And there it is. Or not the chassis fan, but the CPU fan. And that's it right there. It says CPU fan right there. Rotate it like this. Okay. These will fit right down in here. Now you're going to have to reach underneath and grab this plate and hold it underneath so that it lines up. And the first time you get it, the better, because of the thermal paste. So there it is. When you push it in, this kind of sits up into the board. Okay? So just kind of hold that, set this down. Gently screw these in. Don't screw them in tight yet. Just make sure you get them started. Let me check that out. Are they actually going in there? Yes, they are. So now we can finish. There you need, if you see the springs on this thing, you can see that you don't have to really torque this down. You just want this to sit snug against the CPU, just so it helps to dissipate the heat. Kind of give it a little wiggle, make sure it sits down there tight. And then don't forget to plug this in. And there's a little keyed thing on there. You can see this right here, hopefully. The reason for that is because you got a ground, you got a power, and you got the feedback so that the motherboard can monitor the speed of the fan. Okay, pops into place. Give this a little twist. We can use twist ties later if we so desire. Okay. Next is the final thing. We need to get hooked up, but we're not going to do that yet because we got to put these antennas in. Okay, so these are the holes for the antenna. It's a little breakout thing. You got to punch it out. So just kind of wiggle it back and forth. You do not want to drop this. You want to make sure it comes out. Thanks, Max. So I'm going to put the white one up towards the top because it's a little bit longer. A little bit of a flat side on there. That goes on. If I can get my fingers to work properly, it goes right up there. Thanks, Max. He jumped off, abruptly like he does. And knocked all my screwdriver bits all over the floor. Not to pull out the wires that you just so carefully put on the Wi-Fi board. Okay, I hand tighten those. You can tighten them up with something. Make them a little bit tighter. Okay, we can put these on later. These just go here and you can blah blah blah. So now we're almost done. Got the memory stick back in. Let's kind of route these wires back over, and there is wire management, which is nice. We're actually going to break both of these little cutouts. Okay, so this little thing pops right here, like that, and that opens up so that this card will slide right down in there. Now you can see, get it lined up. If you go in the spot really good like that, okay. And you can see that this is all down here nice and flat, so that means it's seated properly. And double check back here because there's a thingamajig, which I can't get to, but you can feel it's the thing that it should lift up into place after this is snapped in. It's kind of hard to get to, so put this in one time, and then this little thing will slide back like that. You can do some additional things, but I think that's pretty good. Kind of maybe bend that down so it's really tight. You could put screws in here to make sure that that stays down, but I really kind of think that's sufficient. I'm going to go ahead and put these things on again. Okay, finally, put in the power supply. If you notice, there's a power connector on the video graphics card as well. So I'm going to pull all these cords and get them all kind of out and about. But before we put this in, it's probably a good idea to try to get these plugged in first. Okay, so if you feel back behind where the power supply connects to the motherboard, there's kind of a ridge. So this little clip right here is what clips on it. And that takes a little bit of effort to get plugged on, but you don't know because it makes kind of a nice click. Okay, so let's analyze this. Okay, so if you analyze both of these, you'll see that they are actually different. So PCIe is the one that goes into the graphics card. Okay, there's that. And you can also see that there's a connector way down here on the motherboard. That's where this one goes. Okay, so we got those plugged in. Since we're not using any SATA drives, we won't need these, so we'll just put them somewhere else. So this obviously wants to go into the back. So again, we don't have screws for these. But you should be able to use these long screws that we had to take out of that other part. Just have to make sure that they're not too long and short something out inside. Okay, I don't have a keyboard or a mouse plugged to this because I just want to make sure this turns on before I do anything else. So we should see it post. Okay, so it doesn't turn on, and we know why. There's a button up here that has to be pushed. Yeah, there we go. New CPU installed, blah, blah, blah. Press Y to confirm. So apparently they tested it with a different CPU than what's in here. Okay, you can hit F2 to run setup. Okay, so there's what the BIOS looks like. Saying processor speeds 3900. Showing memory. Okay, so the next thing we got to do is load the operating system. Okay, so here it is. I'll put a little twist tie right here just to keep these power cables from reaching down and hitting against the CPU fan. There's your two Wi-Fi antennas here. And as soon as I'm done getting the operating system set up, I'll put that case on. But it's been running for about an hour now, and it's really nice and cool. I know the case isn't on, but sometimes cases actually keep it cooler because it moves the air around where it's supposed to. So this is Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and so far so good. We'll start playing a couple games and kind of make a determination. But I mean, I'd be happy for this to be my own PC. It's pretty nice.